Young women heard people say flight attendants couldn't be a flight attendant if they weighed over something like 112 pounds. Yeah. And so it drove addiction and eating disorders, sex addiction. We see a lot of sex addiction and porn addiction.
Hey, I'm Lara, an artist, educator, and entrepreneur who's danced through life in Australia, London, and California. Now I'm an Aussie in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Juggling roles as an artist, ex-dancer, current actor, author, professional educator, and qualified life coach, I'm also a wife and mother of two. Join me on this podcast crafted for creative souls at every level, entrepreneurs, artists, dreamers, and hope-filled humans alike. I'm here to guide you towards a life of love, purpose, adventure, and boundless creativity. As a healthy, wealthy, and wise creative soul, I invite you to hit subscribe for weekly inspiration. Anticipate solo episodes, exclusive interviews with creative luminaries, and insightful discussions with my hottie hubby, Andrew, a specialist performance physical therapist, as we delve into the dynamics of relationships and more. Dive into a 360-degree view of making a creative life you'll love.
This interview has two parts. You're listening to part B.
Welcome back to the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Artist Podcast. I'm Lara. And prevalent in the creative world, particularly within the freelancers because of the nature of what we do as artists and creative entrepreneurs and big dreamers. I want to ask you this. Have you ever grappled with anxiety? Struggled to complete daily tasks, faced physical dependency on substances, battled with eating habits, or been impacted by chronic pain? This episode is for you. Joining me in this episode is Dr. James S. Flowers, founder of J. Flowers Health Institute in Texas, and he's a recognized leader in chronic pain, mental health, and substance use disorders, and understanding the depth of the human condition. There's something for everybody, and it's from substance abuse to mental health and neurological health. So if you're ready to gain valuable insights and understanding into these crucial aspects of human health and improve your life as a creative or an artist or an entrepreneur or a big dreamer, stay tuned as we delve into the insightful conversation with Dr. James Flowers. I'm curious about some of the other addictions because they're so prevalent. Eating disorders, I'm somebody that's had a past in that because of being a professional dancer in the past. Took me a very long time to get well.
Yeah.
And then there's also things like the gambling and sex and technology addiction. Can you speak to what patterns you see up in these areas? What keeps coming up for you with root causes and the why, if there is such a thing, or are they all very unique?
Yeah. I think it's something I believe in, and my philosophy is that everyone's behavior and diagnosis is unique to them, and they have it for a different reason. But what I also know is there is a root cause for everyone, and it can be different for everyone. Sometimes I do believe, and we know that addiction is hereditary, can be hereditary. Substance use and alcoholism and what have you can run in families, and you can have that gene, I believe. But also trauma. You were a dancer. And I know so many dancers and models and former models who are in recovery from eating disorders that originated from being told as a dancer, lose 10 pounds. You're not going to be able to be successful unless you lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever it was. And, back when you were dancing as a child, probably, or a young adult, you probably heard people say that. Young women heard people say flight attendants couldn't be a flight attendant if they weighed over something like 112 pounds.
That's so true.
And so it drove addiction and eating disorders, sex addiction. We see a lot of sex addiction and porn addiction. More money is spent on porn than is spent on professional football betting. And
that's terrible.
I think that on every Sunday, over $1 billion is spent on betting on football during football season, but more money is spent daily on porn. And it is so accessible. You can pick up your phone now and type in whatever you want to look for, and a
Yeah.
video pops up, and there's nothing really that restricts it. You can do it at 10 years old, you can do it at 8 years old if
Yeah.
parents aren't
Yeah.
watching the phones, and these children are seeing sex, porn, and addiction at
Mm.
such early ages, and our
Mm.
brain becomes accustomed, and it gets stunted right there at that growth level, and really hones in on watching whatever it is that they're watching, porn, sex, whatever type of sex it is. And we see that addiction go unnoticed for years and years and years.
Mm.
And we also see people who come to treatment who talk about anxiety and depression that never talk about a porn addiction. But through an
Oh.
evaluative process, we have everybody does a psychological assessment, a psychiatric assessment, neuropsych assessment, and it typically will shine through and somehow, and we'll begin to talk about that. And there's a lot of denial and shame around addiction, period,
Yeah.
but especially around things like sex addiction or eating disordered eating. And so, I believe that technology plays a huge role. I think our society plays a huge role. And, magazines and TV, and we see beautiful people on television, and we want to look like that. We want to emulate that. There's every magazine you pick up in the city of Houston that's like a society magazine. Half of the ads on it are plastic surgeons, right?
Really?
With
Wow.
beautiful women saying, we offer this and we do this, and breast augmentation and facelifts and
Mm.
this. And we just see that everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we really see people that don't feel comfortable in their own skin and want to change. And so they become addicted to, we even see people I get a lot of referrals from plastic surgeons, from men and women who are addicted to plastic surgery.
Oh my goodness. Must end up looking so horrible. Can you tell me too on the pornography addiction? I'm curious because so many people think it's just normal now,
Yeah.
or this is not harmful, or what do you see that makes it harmful?
Yeah. So what makes it harmful is, look, I'm not going to judge someone at all if they want to watch porn, right? If someone wants to watch porn and it doesn't disturb their sexual intimacy with
Mm.
others,
Yeah.
okay, if that's what you want to do,
Mm.
that's porn in itself. That's a personal, I guess, choice. But when you decide to watch porn and not have sex or intimacy with your wife or your
Mm.
husband, that's a big problem. Or you're a child, no children should watch porn, right? At
That's right.
all.
Yeah, I
And when
agree.
children watch porn and they see that and they begin masturbating, and they begin to feel, even adults feel when they masturbate, that they don't want to have sex with their partner. And it feels
Mm.
better to stimulate themselves than their partner stimulating.
Yeah.
And so we see that self-soothing again
Mm.
is, I feel better doing this with myself than with my wife, my partner, my husband, whoever it is. And I think that the access on our internet and our phones and our computers, that it drives that addiction, and so many people are addicted to pornography. A friend of mine is a chief information officer of security at a major hospital system, and in this major hospital, I'm sure all hospital or all big corporations do this, but they block porn, right? And you can't access porn on your work computer at a hospital, right? And the employees know that. But this really good friend of mine, who's head of security information technology, says the number one problem they have in the hospital system at this particular hospital is physicians, nurses, and staff trying to access porn, and it
No.
locks their computer. And the IT people have to literally go unlock their computer and say, Dr. Smith, you tried to access this site and
Mm.
you can't do that, right?
At work, for
And
goodness sake.
yes,
Now that's
exactly.
addiction to me. It's like,
That's
you can't wait till
addiction.
you're home. That's
Exactly.
addiction right there.
Right, exactly.
Mm,
So it's that bad, it's
yeah.
that prevalent, I guess I should say, that
Yeah.
so many people do it, it becomes almost normalized.
Yeah. And tell me too, is like a lot of people don't, no one really wants to become an addict, but how do we avoid, like, where is the line that you fall into it? Because no one plans on it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's
Mm,
right. I think that um, I think the way I'll answer that is in my personal philosophy is when we're healthy with our mind, body, and spirit, and we
mm,
do things in the middle and not an extreme,
yeah.
right? And when it doesn't interfere with work, it doesn't interfere with our social, it doesn't interfere with our intimacy with others, it doesn't interfere with isolation, and we're able to function fully in life and thrive, and we're happy, then I think you're doing okay. But
Mm,
when you begin to have alcohol use or drug use or pornography use or disordered eating, we all want it, not all of us, but
mm,
we should all eat healthy, but there's a limit to that, right?
mm.
And we can say, oh gosh, I am a member of a certain club here in Houston, and I see uh, three particular women in this club every single day that I'm there, that whose arms are about this thin,
Oh my goodness.
that
Mm.
are
That
that
was a
are
pen for
using,
the listeners.
yeah,
Yeah.
that are using the elliptical, or they're doing the
Mm,
climber, or they're doing cardio.
yeah.
And I talk to the club manager and I'm like, do you not see this? And they're
Mm,
like, what do we do? We I get it. I know she's going to kill herself, but
mm.
I can't, as a club manager, go say, ma'am, you're overdoing it, or sir, you're really
Yeah.
overdoing it. And so it
Yeah.
puts them in an awkward position. But, and so what that does is to those people, it almost reinforces it because no one is intervening and saying anything and they feel like it's fine. But I think when we live in the middle, and we don't overdo it or underdo it, and we just live life with a positive, or we try to live life with a positive mindset, and we maintain mind, body, and spirit, I think that we can pretty much live a happy, successful life. It's really when
Mm.
we go to either extreme.
Yeah, because it's like you think it's going to fix you or make you feel better, but like you're
Yeah,
saying, and it's not how you're actually going to be able to live in the middle and
yeah,
thrive as a
yeah.
360-degree whole happy human. I love that so much. Can you
Absolutely.
tell me too, for those that have someone in their family,
Yeah,
and you've been this person that's struggling with addiction, whether it's
yeah,
pornography or an eating disorder or whatever, we often look at that person needs to get fixed. But what about those that are suffering because they're in relationship with
yeah,
somebody with either chronic pain or anything
yeah.
that you treat? What about the family
Absolutely.
members?
Yeah, which are so important, and often, excuse me, and
Mm.
oftentimes family members don't know what to do, and they don't
Mm.
know where to go for help. And in my own practice, you know, it doesn't amaze me anymore, but sometimes I feel like, wow, I'm just shocked by it. But even in 2024, I can have a mom and dad with a 19-year-old using opiates or alcohol or even heroin, who eventually find me or another treatment center, and they say, we just had no idea. We didn't know where the first place to look is. And there's no book that says this is what you do. Someone needs to write this book, right? Maybe you and I need to collaborate
Yeah, yeah, fun.
and someone needs to write a handbook on what to do, but people don't
Mm.
know what to do. But what I can say, and what I tell families and people when they have a loved one with an addiction or a perceived addiction, is talk to your friends. Don't hide it. Don't have shame around it, but really trust a close core group of people. Ask for advice, ask for help, Also, you can go to adult children of alcoholic meetings, which are similar
Yeah.
to an AA meeting, but
Mm.
it's for the loved ones of alcoholics and addicts. They can
Mm.
help. And then SAMHSA, which is SAMSHA.gov, is a website that the government puts out. And there is everything in the world that you can possibly think of about addiction and
Wow.
resources for loved
Wonderful.
ones on what to do.
Mm.
And then also, in Texas you can dial 311. I don't know about other states, but in Texas there's a helpline called 311 that's not a 911, but it's for information
Very
when you're
cool.
feeling unsafe or need help with anything, right?
Mm.
You can need help with your electric bill, or you can need help with your husband who's using alcohol, and they'll give you resources. And I
That's
don't know
incredible.
that, I wish it
Yeah.
was a national number, but I know it's in Texas anyway. And
Well
then there's
done,
also
Texas.
this, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then of course there's the suicide hotline numbers, but that's for
Mm.
suicide, of course. But I really do believe when we have someone that we can trust, and if you don't feel like you have someone you can trust, go to an adult children of alcoholics meeting. You can
Yeah.
Google that, adult children of
Yeah.
alcoholics, and where do I go to a meeting? And you would be surprised how many are within 2 miles of your home.
So
And
true. Yeah.
my
Mm.
niece, who is not an addict or an alcoholic either, she and I had this conversation, and she has a very, very good friend of hers that is an alcoholic and goes to meetings 3 times a week. And so she said, being around my friend and listening to her languaging
Mm.
is amazing. She said, she's like, I'm not an addict and I want to go to an AA meeting
Yeah,
because,
right.
because of
Yes.
the things that they learn and the things that they
Yeah.
talk about. And she said, it's just a good way to live. And I said,
It
you're right.
is.
It is. It's a
Yeah.
good guide to living.
It
And
really
I
is.
said, unfortunately, if you're not an addict, don't go to a meeting, but
Go
you
to a
could go
family
to,
one.
yeah, go to a family one, find a life
So,
coach. Yeah.
yeah. Could you share as well, like a lot of people worldwide are coming to you to, deal with their brokenness and journey to wholeness. Have you got any stories that really stand out to you from people that have come to see you that you just kind of go, that's a unique story, or any story at all from
Yeah.
people? Mm.
Yeah, I'll say I'll do a chronic pain story. I worked with a young lady probably 3 years ago that sticks out in my mind, who was a an amazing horseman, and she was a top ranked uh, equine hunter jumper, right, in the world, and owned beautiful horses, and had this amazing life with her horses and jumping and going to shows and really winning events. And one day a horse reared up and it fell back,
Oh no.
and she fell with it, and it landed on her,
Oh my
and
goodness.
the whole entire horse, and it landed on her, and it really almost crushed both of her legs.
Mm.
And so she had had probably 15 surgeries. It broke all the bones in her legs and feet, and really was in a wheelchair for a couple of years, and then eventually on crutches. And over that time, she became extremely depressed, and she became very addicted to opiates and very addicted to anxiety medication. And she had gained probably, I think at the time she had gained like 75 pounds, because she was eating her emotions and eating her feelings,
Yeah.
and grieving her previous life, right, and experiencing this pain syndrome. But with
Mm.
all the emotional responses around it, it amplified everything. And so she was just living in her parents' guest house, doing nothing but eating and taking medication all day long. And her family found me and told me about the story, and they convinced her to come down to Houston and just meet me and sit with me for a minute. And so when she came, she was on crutches, and she was very angry and very
Oh,
resentful. and said, this is not in my brain. This is in my body. I feel horrible. I've lost my life. I've lost my horses. I've lost my energy. I've gained 75 pounds. I feel horrible, but my legs are never going to work again. And I said, I'm going to challenge you on that and say that your pain can be decreased. And I think your legs will work again. And I had looked at her medical records and spoken to consultants, and we talked about the state of her injuries. And they said, yes, with an excellent physical therapist
Yes, there you go.
like your husband,
Yes.
we believe that, she can get back to where she was. And so we talked for a couple of hours in my office. And at the end of the time, she said, she said, I really don't like you, but I'm going to give you 2 weeks to see how I feel. and,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to call my mom, and I'm doing this because they want me to, but I don't think it's going to work. And long story short, she was one of the most debilitated people that I had had in my practice. And she stayed here for 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, she was able to go back home. And today she is a champion rider again. She's doing Soul Cycle. She is jogging. She's practically running. She's done a half marathon, not overdoing it, but thriving and living an amazing life with zero pain. And her parents had spent money all over the world trying to give her infusions and this and that. And, what she did is physical therapy, breathing, meditation, yoga, exercise, mind exercise, and therapy, and really did that 8 hours a day for about 3 months, 5 days a week for about 3 months. And she really was able to turn her life around. And when she got here, she was like, there is no way this is going to happen, and I'm leaving in 2 weeks. And let me tell you, 3 months later, I still talk to her 3 years later, and it's an amazing story, and she's just doing phenomenally well. So that's one
Oh.
story. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So like when I said a story, I was not expecting that's like a feature film or it's incredible. Like, wow,
I'll-
congratulations.
Thank you. I'll give you one more very quick story
Yeah, I'd
because
love
it's
that.
similar but different. But
Yeah.
one of my most difficult patients actually was a pediatric trauma surgeon. So we're talking about a brilliant mind, right? To
Yes.
be a
Mm.
pediatric trauma surgeon. And
Yeah.
her husband was also a surgeon. And the husband and family called me and said that she had chronic pain and had to quit working and quit practicing. And so she came to see me. And, I talked to her about the mind body connection and the emotional relationship to physical pain. And she really looked at me and she said, "You are so stupid."
Wow.
And she said, "Do you know who I am?" And I said, I do, yes."
Wow.
And she said, "And you're sitting here trying to educate me?"
Arrogant much? Oh my
I said,
gosh.
I said, "I am, yes." And
Yes.
and I believe that you can turn your life around, and you can be a surgeon, and you can practice, and you can live the life that you want. And this is how you could do that. And she said, "Absolutely not. This is the most ridiculous, stupid." She looked at her husband and said, "Get me out of here." And he looked at her and said, "Honey, we talked before we got here. I love you. I'm getting on the plane and I'm going home, and you're
I'm
staying
leaving
here."
you.
I'm leaving you.
That's love.
And she's like, "No." And she was bawling. And he's like, "I'm going to divorce you and take the children if you do not stay."
Hmm.
And so she also said, I said, give me 2 weeks, just 2 weeks to see if we make some progress. And she said, "I'll think about it." And so she went to her room and cried and yelled and screamed. And she came back to my office and she said, "I'm going to give you 2 weeks and I'll do everything you tell me to do for 2 weeks. And then I'm out of here." Same thing as this other woman. And during that 2 week period, I asked her to talk about answer every question that I asked her. And so what I learned is not only was she a pediatric trauma surgeon, but she was a pediatric trauma surgeon that only did surgery on children who had been severely sexually abused.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Oof.
under the age of 10.
Oh, that's
So
heartbreaking.
we're talking
Oh,
about infants to 10-year-old children.
oh my gosh.
Was her life
Mm.
operating on these children in trauma, and that had objects and human objects and non-human objects and all kinds of sexual things that had
Oh,
happened to these children. And guess what? That is traumatizing.
that is,
You
yeah,
imagine?
yeah.
And so what happened to her is she had done this for years, and she experienced a psychological and an emotional breakdown, and it caused what she thought was something called fibromyalgia, which is a nervous system reaction. I'm sure you know about fibromyalgia,
Yeah, family
and
members with it. Yeah. Mm.
and she had chronic migraines and lots of physical pain. And what we did is we had a trauma team, psychological trauma team, work with her, and she did EMDR, and she did trauma therapy, she did physical therapy. She had also gained probably 80 pounds, and wasn't moving, wasn't exercising, was using too many drugs. We detoxed her, and also 3 months later, and it's been probably 15 years now, that woman today is a surgeon, not working with, she's a trauma surgeon working on adults, not children, but living an amazing, healthy, happy life. And at the end of the
Mm.
program, she said, for the rest of my life, I will stand on a mountaintop and cheer what you've done to change my life. And I said, I didn't do anything. You did all the hard work. And so,
Oh.
with physical therapy, with mind body work, with breathing, with meditation, with mindfulness, and changing our thoughts about negativity into a positive reaction, and working with our nervous system, we can actually overcome all of those traumatic events, right? Getting through that
Wow.
trauma, working through the trauma. And she's a very happy, thriving individual today. So, we have some great successes with people that we work with.
Oh, my emotions are just like, there's so many feelings as I listen to these stories. And, it reminds me too of the ancient Bible story when Jesus says, do you want to be well? And it's that question of, do you want to
Yeah.
move forward with your life?
Yes.
And I find that fascinating because they come to you with this stubbornness of, you can't help me. It's like, well,
Yeah.
do you want to be helped? It's
Exactly.
like the beginning. It's like the door to
I'm going
to
to
a better
start
life.
using that. I'm going
I
to take
know,
that from you.
right? Especially in Texas.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, it's
Do
just as
you
you were
want
speaking, what came to me, and
yeah,
yeah. Also, just we've got a couple of questions before we finish, but
that?
I just want to know too, what resources do you recommend for
Yeah.
what we just talked about? Is there any resources or books that you say this is really good that deals with that
Yeah.
mind body? And have you written any, or are you going to write any?
You know what's so funny is I have about 3 books in the works that I work on with a team,
Yeah,
and not yet. No, I need to do that. I love a book called "The Body Keeps the Score." Have you heard of it?
I have, but I haven't read it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is amazing because our body keeps the score, and our body with our brain can overcome anything, but our body absolutely, when our brain is not functioning, it affects our body. And that book is an amazing book about overcoming trauma to our body, to our brain, to our lives. It's about I'm not even going to go through everything that it goes on, but it's The Body Keeps the Score. And then anything by Peter Levine
Mm.
is amazing. That works on, he's a mind, body, spirit. John Kabat-Zinn, who does a lot of trauma work, is amazing. And really, those are my 3 probably big: Peter Levine, John Kabat-Zinn, Body Keeps the Score. Gabor Mate is amazing. Anything by Gabor Mate is amazing when working with trauma, working with psychological anxiety, addiction. Those are great resources, I think.
Thank you. That's so good. And you are an amazing resource. So, where can people find you?
Yeah, thank you. Jflowershealth.com. It's the letter J, flowers, Flowers, health, as in you're in good health.com.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can
And
send me a message on the website.
you have a podcast as well?
Yes, it is
Yes.
Understanding the Human Condition with Dr. James Flowers. And it's on every, what do you call it? Platform, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's my lack of technology. It's on,
Shows you're not an addict. It's fine.
Exactly. It's on Spotify and Apple and all those things, but you can Google Understanding the Human Condition with Dr. James Flowers, or you can go to jflowershealth.com and click on our podcast and subscribe and watch our podcast.
Beautiful website. Beautiful. Thank you so much for this incredibly uplifting conversation.
This has been so fun. We've got to connect after this because I'd love to hear more about you. I think what you do as a life coach and working with families who are struggling is just priceless for those families. And so I really commend you on the work that you do and your life coaching and the podcast and all of the things that you're involved in seems so amazing. So I'd love to connect further.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Phew, today's masterclass is done. I love reaching back and saying, I've done this, and helping you learn the easy way. If you want more, head to laurabiancapilcher.com for show notes, links, freebies, my blog, coaching and courses, and you can also head to my socials, Laura Bianca Pilcher on Instagram and Facebook. I'm also on Twitter and Pinterest. Thanks again for listening. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That would mean the world to me. And of course, keep on living the healthy, wealthy, wise artist living towards your dream life. Bye, friends. P.S. Shout out to my hottie hubby, Andrew Pilcher, who does all the editing on this podcast.